Welcome to the Church Universal series, where we seek to tell the often untold story of the many apostolates in the Catholic Church which are making a positive difference in the world. It is indeed challenging being a Catholic mother in today's world that often places the self above all other considerations, and the giving of one's life for one's children is often regarded as stifling. Today's guest, Chiara Finaldi, recognized the need for mothers to have mutual support in living out their beautiful vocation, and so founded the apostolate Catholic Mothers in London, England. Welcome, Chiara.
Hi, Father. Thank you for having me.
So what inspired you to begin this organization, I believe, in 2015?
Correct. I got married when I was 19. Becoming a wife, marrying my husband, and eventually becoming a mother was not a, let's say, second choice. It was my first choice. It was what I desired and what I felt called to. But as I started having children and I started meeting with other women, perhaps in both secular and sometimes Catholic circles, I would find that in a sense there was always that question, but you're just a mother, and this is what you're doing, and what about your career? What about your future? And I always said, there's a new temptation that started entering in my life, that of feeling that my vocation as a mother was second best.
Yes.
And that first best choice that I thought that I wanted was in a sense shaken all of a sudden. And I soon realized that I wasn't the only one feeling like this. I realized that it was the temptation that many of us women, mothers, find in a world that, in a sense, rejects motherhood in its entirety. And I think it's just obviously the Catholic Mothers apostolate didn't happen from one day to another, but it was something that was matured over an experience and a need that I felt to be nourished spiritually, and also to have the support of other women who could tell me in a moment of weakness, in the light of the truth, that this is where I was meant to be,
Yes.
and this is where I was meant to pass on my faith to the children. That was my life, and my life was a first choice, let's say, not a second best choice. So it started, I started, first of all, I had two experiences. One, when I feeling this need, I was working back then, and I had the possibility to spend some time by the Blessed Sacrament on my lunch break. And I think this time of silence, this time of prayer, it was me and Christ. It was what gave me the push and the courage to do something, first to search for something, and then to start something totally new. I mean, I was blogging a bit at the time, so I encountered the American world and many wonderful American women, Catholic women, and I was definitely moved by the fire that our fellow American Catholics have. That they think there is something good to create on the Catholic field, and they just go for it.
Yes.
And I think this attitude was something that really attracted me. And so I would say both with the push of Christ and the American sisters, I first decided to start a little Facebook group. And that, started also as a, something really small, a group where women could share their struggles. They could share their, a little fun anecdotes about their children, but where the faith was at the center, where we could learn about our faith a bit better. Because sometimes when you're a mother, it's very difficult to kind of also sit down and read an article or a document of the church or something. So the fact that we had a Facebook place where all those bits of information could actually converge was a good place to start. A good place where everybody could find a bit of, like, let's say, virtual sisterhood.
You know that I often say that God reveals His will to us by we suddenly recognize a particular need. Sometimes it's for ourselves as well, but just in society in general, we recognize a particular need. And we see that there's a way that we could help meet that particular need. And when we're praying before the Blessed Sacrament, of course, the Lord is there. And He does call us both to receive His love, but then to go out and share it in a particular way. So it sounds like this is the call that you experienced while you were praying before the Blessed Sacrament.
It was very much, it was an urge to get up and go and do. It was certainly, in a sense, also out of gratitude for His love, because I had received a lot, thanks to my parents. Obviously God had been very present in my life throughout my childhood. And when you receive a lot, then also, even in your struggles, you know that Christ is there, and you need to tell people about it. You need to know that I need to be reminded that I'm not alone.
Yes.
And you need to allow, you just can't keep it in.
Your husband was mentioning that you have 7 children from 21 to 2. And you talk about, however, the loneliness of a mother. Well, it seems like you wouldn't really be lonely. But how can mothers, even when you have many children, that you experience a certain loneliness?
It's interesting, yes. The thing is, you're busy and you're surrounded by a lot of life, yes, but in a sense, it's a lonely job being a mother. It's in a sense you're giving up your life, and you are, you feel sometimes not understood. And you feel that what you're doing and what your children are doing to you is cruel. But also there's another problem that, we as mothers all have our own routines. So you never gather around, for, we're always on our own, doing our own things. And also, in the moments of, for example, one thing that I always said, when you go to church and you want to kind of enter being part of, the liturgy, and in a sense, how can I explain it? It's a loneliness that you feel left alone. You feel, like nobody really cares. You feel like you're just there, to undertake your tasks.
Right, and to manage your children and all of that.
There's no time but not to manage your children. It's just you feel it's a hard thing to describe. You feel on your own in just trying the best that you can, because I think only mothers, can understand that feeling of, sometimes despair, that, not despair, never despair, or, a bit of a struggle when, you feel like you're not managing okay, when you're feeling that you would like to, somebody to just take the children and, so that you could, do other things, or just the feeling that, it can be like some very hard at times. That's why I think it was very important to have a group where women said, I'm tired. Yes. I don't think I'm doing my job very well. I think where is God? is God here with me? Because I can see that, my house is a disaster. I can see that, I'm not praying very well. And in fact, I'm not even managing to pray. I can see that, I'm not managing to do basic things.
Right.
Well, I feel alone. I think so. It's strange. It's really hard to kind of explain. Yes, obviously, it's a different type of loneliness.
And that's where only a mother really can understand those kind of struggles, where you have these desires for your children's happiness, for a clean household, for the perfect meal, for all of these things. And yet you're juggling all of these things with just your limitations and your time constraints and all of those things.
Exactly.
And it can be overwhelming at times, I'm sure. And that's where only a mother understands.
Exactly. And I think, one thing that was very important, within the group is first of all to kind of, get the spiritual nourishment, of some sort. So that in a sense we can put into perspective, our life, place God first, but also to, as you mentioned, to kind of, realize our limitations, that, and realize that, it's okay not to have a perfect meal sometimes, or, all the times, but that in the end, if we put, God first, I think, we will reach, the right balance within, our vocation, and in a sense, also, reduce, or in fact have this, this loneliness that's kind of we feel when nobody looks after you. Well, everybody else is just, you're there for everybody else, and I think that's the point of the loneliness. You're there for everybody else, but you many times feel that there's no one there for you. Well, obviously God is. Well, that's a great temptation, to feel that way, and I think it was important to make sure that that was kind of promoted and remembered. And I always said, I needed to be reminded of that.
Right.
I many times fall in that kind of temptation of feeling that I should be doing something else.
And I think we all need a certain humility to accept our limitations, right? That you would like to be the super mom.
Exactly.
I'd like to be the perfect priest,
Exactly.
And yet we accept our limitations.
Yeah.
I can't be the Messiah, as we were taught in seminary, right? So there are certain people that I'm able to help and to be a blessing to, through God, through me. It's always His grace. Exactly. And I think mothers need that as well, too, don't they? That you're not the super mom, you're not the answer to all the problems of your family, your children, but you're there, and your heart is there, and you love them.
Exactly. That's right. Yeah. No. Exactly. Exactly. And it's it's such a relief when you realize that.
And that's where I think a group like yours, and you have weekly meetings, is that right? You encourage these small group weekly meetings, so that just a group can get actually to know each other and encourage each other.
Yeah, I think we've all realized our to have those kind of virtual realities is all very well and it's all very nice, but I think after the experience of COVID, everybody knows even more how much more important and necessary it is for us to kind of meet face to face and to have this kind of experience of meeting together. And one thing that I think Catholic Mothers tries to provide is to create those moments where mothers can gather together. And one of the things is our Thursday meetings, our weekly meetings, where we have groups of mothers that meet and they study a document of the Church. We use different studies. At the moment, we're doing Aquinas for beginners. So we study an encyclica, we read a book together. It's all faith-based because we realize that we need to be nurtured spiritually in order to then, bring home and also to pass on the faith to our children. We can't pass to our children what we don't have.
Right.
And if our spirit is weary, obviously the children will know that. And so those meetings are very important to us, and you really dive into the faith, and those meetings are very informal. We usually lay a lovely table with all sorts of lovely breakfast, because we usually meet in the morning. and we have children with us. And some meetings are more productive than others, as you can imagine. There's always,
Yes.
every woman might have, a couple of children. So some meetings are very productive. Some meetings are really a bit of a disaster. But nevertheless, we try our best. We are together, and we have gained a lot in diving into the richness of the church, as well as diving into each other's experience, because I think what happens when you then start walking with a bunch of women who are like mothers like you, that you start sharing some very deep experiences,
Yes.
some very deep suffering sometimes, and everything in the light of the faith has a wonderful light and an encouraging light. And you might find the grandmother who is, who was now like starting to become a grandmother, suffering also from the fact that the children are going. Some other children are, going and getting married, and she's now becoming grandmother. She's left alone. Some marital problems that are brought up also in the group, and always encouraged to the couple. The wife or the mother is always encouraged to really take it to Christ, and I think for us those weekly meetings are a great blessing of a wonderful journey towards Christ.
Yes, I think that's such an important thing, that you're not only just getting together, but you have a focus, and the focus is on let's grow and learn our faith more deeply.
Exactly.
Let us look to Christ for the answers in the struggles. Let's talk about the home as a domestic church, a place where the faith is passed on. How are you hoping to do that in your own families?
It's been ongoing, obviously. We've been doing it. In a sense, one thing that I always try to remind to our mothers is that we don't have a life of faith and a life of leisure. Our life is our life, which is one, and our faith should show throughout every aspect of our living. So, and this is something that obviously our children have been living with. So we don't, everything that we do from the moment in which we wake up is done and is in the light, is lived in the light of the faith. So in a sense, it's very important for the children to know that, to live like that. They don't even probably realize that this is what we do, because we've always been doing it. But what's important is also, to then be in tune with obviously the liturgical seasons as well. So we do our prayers, but then it's beautiful to kind of being in tune with what the church does, with what the church is at. So to do a bit more fasting when we're required to, do a bit more praying around Our Lady of Guadalupe, or around. So in a sense, and this is something that is acquired, in a sense, it happens kind of organically.
Yes.
My parents did this with us. We do it to our children. The parents the faith of my parents became my faith. My faith is now becoming my children's faith.
Yes.
So it's just very. But obviously, I was blessed, to have it this way. In a sense, it happened very naturally. But many people, and that's what happens also on the Catholic Mothers group, didn't have that, and also perhaps are just rediscovering the faith.
Yes.
So I think one thing that, for example, Catholic mothers are produced to be able to kind of also mothers to be able to kind of really live the domestic church and being in tune with the church. We produced a little planner. We call it the Catholic Mothers Planner, which is a planner that has within itself follows the church, has all the prayers that can help you, all the prayers that can be said for a specific saint or for a specific feast or solemnity. And in a sense, and it has little pearls of wisdom about the church, and her wisdom. So in a sense, the domestic church is, and again, I think we've seen it in recent times when the churches were closed. how much more important, in a sense, and how much more emphasis there had to be on the
Yes.
domestic church. Because, you know, the domestic church was, in fact, the only place at that time, unfortunately, where, you know, we could, in a sense, nourish our spirits, where our children could just get something. So there was, you know, in a sense, prayer time had to be more focused. And in the end, you know, what we do, the domestic church is a beautiful place where, you know,
Yes.
the children are loved and they're able to face the world.
So talk about, you know, the fact that it's able to be a place where the faith is passed on, and it's really, if the parents are living the faith, if it's important to the parents, it's going to become important to the children. They need to see it lived out.
I mean, we sit down at tables sometimes, especially during big feasts, you know, for hours and hours. So, but yeah, I mean, sitting it's as you said, in a sense, the faith of my parents, and I was saying, you know, the faith of my parents became mine. My faith is becoming my children's faith, and is something that is within them. And it's interesting when I was saying that the domestic church is very important and just prepare them for the world, because, you know, every time the children go out at school or go out, you know, university and or go out with their friends, they would always come back at the dinner table, for example, in that case. And I remember they would present you know, some things that had happened to them or their dad, and talking about, you know what, my X and Y person, this person said, you know, this and this and this about the church, but this is not what we believe, is it? And it's a wonderful way then, you know,
Yes.
to really, you know, be
That's
in a very kind
wonderful.
of also informal setting to say, well, yeah, actually, X person was wrong to say that, because we as Catholic believe this, this, and that. And in a sense, you know, the table and or, you know, or the sitting room, or, you know, becomes, and in our case, as I said, the table, more importantly,
Yes.
becomes a place where the faith can be truly kind of really discussed.
Right.
Discussed and explained.
Beautiful.
Because I think there's nothing worse than to say, okay, this is what we believe, that's it. No,
Yes.
this is what we believe because this, because of that, and because of that. And I think it's in understanding your faith, and then you make it yours.
Now, you showed us the planner, and on your website you have Do Small Things with Great Love on the Catholic Mother's website. How can people get that planner, for example, or find some of the resources that you have for Catholic mothers? Where should they go?
Now, the Catholic Mother's Planner, if you're in the UK, you can visit our website, catholicmothers.co.uk, and there you'll find our resources, our work, what we do, what we've done, and what we hope to do.
Now, I know that on your website that you have different stories of some of the mothers and how their life has benefited from it. We've got, in 1 minute, could you tell us one of the stories or any closing thoughts that you have?
One of the stories, I think one of the best story, it was the story of the mother who had quads. She found herself pregnant with four quads, with quadruplets. She had already had 3 children and panicked. And although she was Catholic, she was debating whether, you know, perhaps, you know, something could be done, you know, or perhaps, you know, she was desperate and didn't know whether she could carry on with her pregnancies or not. And Catholic mothers arrived to her rescue, not rescue, but just there as a support to say, listen, we're all mothers, we all struggle. You know, just those babies will need to be born, and you will be supported spiritually. You will be supported, you know, with all the help that you know, will need to get for you. And I think there was we also, you know, organized a wonderful baptism for the children. We Catholic mothers, you know, the team, and, you know, all the other people from, you know, also across the world, you know, sent, you know, all sorts of, you know, good wish and help. And I think, you know, to see that the support of, you know, mothers is vital in a world where that really rejects life and asks of women other things that are not fair.
Well, thank you,
to us.
Chiara, for being with us today, and God bless you in your work with Catholic mothers. The servant of God, Cardinal Joseph Minzenti, wrote words that I would like to conclude today's program with. He wrote, "The most important person on earth is a mother. She cannot claim the honor of having built Notre Dame Cathedral. No, she need not. She has built something much more magnificent than any cathedral, a dwelling for an immortal soul, the tiny perfection of her baby's body. The angels have not been blessed with such a grace. They cannot share in God's creative miracle to bring new saints to heaven. Only a human mother can do that. Mothers are closer to God the Creator than any human creature. God joins forces with mothers in performing his act of creation. What on God's earth is more glorious than this, to be a mother?" We will see you again this time next week for another episode of the Church Universal.